decision makers, leaders at all levels of the organization must be committed to sponsoring Black employees as well as other diverse employees. The reality is that this is Keisha, your career and business confidence coach, equipping you to win by owning your inherent brilliance and eliminating your shrinking tendencies so that you will have the mindset to dominate in your field or industry. Click on the subscribe button below so that you will be notified of when I upload my weekly Wednesday videos. When it comes to tackling systemic racism and bias in all its forms, change cannot come fast enough, and patience has literally run out for organizations to get this right. We're simply at a tipping point, and organizations that are not able to thoroughly do the work to address these issues in their organization will appear backward, intolerant, or simply out of touch, and will no longer be able to attract top talent of all backgrounds to their organizations. So in this video, we will talk about 5 serious and effective strategies that will actually work to help organizations move the needle towards building a culture of diversity, inclusion, and equity. Are you ready? Let's do this. Join us for this 3-part series on a holistic approach in dismantling systemic racism and bias in your workplace. Step number 1 is that the business leader, the CEO, or whatever your organization calls it, needs to drive the change from the top. And this is not like what people used to do even 10 years ago, where they put a chief diversity officer in the role and tell them, go ahead and implement those changes, and every so often report out to the leadership team what the progress is. That is no longer enough, because the reality is that those roles a lot of times reporting to HR, or they don't actually have a seat at the table to drive actual changes. And while they're out there doing their diversity activities, quote unquote, the CEO and the business leaders are actually focusing on the real things that the organization cares about. And the truth is, structural and systemic changes do not happen unless it is driven from the top, and that people know that the leader will hold them accountable to drive these changes at all levels of the organization. Point number 2, and this is where it gets really juicy, is that decision makers, leaders at all levels of the organization must be committed to sponsoring Black employees as well as other diverse employees. The reality is that introductions are already happening. Leaders are already making introductions. They are already sponsoring. They're already giving opportunities to people to get promotions, to get raises, to get different leadership opportunities. The challenge, the problem, is that the introductions are happening to people that are looking just like the leadership team, and typically the leadership team, as we know, is not diverse. So this is not asking for preferential treatment. It's actually challenging those leaders to open the same doors that they open to their buddy across the street, to their friend that went to the same alma mater, same university that they did, to their inner circle. All they're doing is opening that door to diverse candidates and diverse employees, and making it broader, making the team that they sponsor broader, making the people that they're making introductions to broader beyond just their inner network. And if organizations, if companies are really serious about this, they will challenge these leaders, these decision makers to do this activity, because this is where real change happens. So step number 3 is that compensation has to be tied to moving the needle on diversity metrics. We keep getting juicy, guys. It's funny because people will only do what is getting rewarded. That is a very, very basic principle, and somehow we forget that when we think about diversity metrics. And the reality is that I was working in an organization for many years in the New York tri-state area that could not, for some reason, even though they were in a very, very diverse location in the country, they somehow couldn't find quote-unquote qualified diverse candidates. But miraculously, all of a sudden, when money was tied to the ability to drive those numbers, miraculously, all of a sudden, within a year, within 2 years, they were able to drive significant and drastic change. And this is what it is. People will do what gets rewarded, and whatever does not get rewarded doesn't get done. And guess what? Once it's rewarded and the CEO, as I said before, models these behaviors, they get repeated over and over and over again. So even though all these is hard work, it's actually pretty simple. So tie compensation to diversity metrics and you will see miraculous improvement. Action number 4 is what I call show me the money. The reality is we all know that whatever we want to see grow and improve, we've got to invest in. You get what you pay for. And so a lot of times organizations, they are willing to invest in marketing so that the company will grow. They're willing to invest in training their salespeople so that their revenue will grow. Well, in the same way, if you want to see cultural changes happen within the organization, we must be willing to spend money and invest properly in diversity and inclusion activities that will actually drive the number to changes, which will include finding consulting firms that will help to implement best practices that will really work, including recruiting as well, recruiting activities, going to universities of color, historically black colleges and universities, invest in money and bring in organizations such as Management Leadership for Tomorrow that has access to a slew of brown and black qualified candidates in the business arena. The reality, as I said before, is that we cannot cheap out. We cannot cheapsake in this area. We have to be willing to invest. We have to be willing to pay proper money towards driving these changes forward if we are really serious. If we're not, then we can do what we normally do and not put our money where our mouth is. If you agree with this point, I want you to type in the comments below, show me the money. Number 5 is giving honest, actionable feedback. You know, that feedback that is not on the paper, it is not on the performance appraisal, but is what people are saying about individual when they are not in the room, that is impacting their ability to get more opportunities, their ability to get promoted, or simply to advance in their career. The reality is that when the boys club is taking care of each other, they pull their person aside that they're really invested in and say, hey, you're not getting this feedback. This is not on your performance appraisal. This is not being told to you. But this behavior, this activity, it could be like an attitude, you know. It could be the way in which they speak. It could be the way in which they're not able to influence. It could be many things. But it's not written on the paper, and it's that one thing that if they're able to fix it, will play a significant role in opening up the door for additional opportunities for them. And people of color, women, are not being told these things. They have these huge blind spots that nobody's having the conversation with them so that they can fix it and be able to move on. And we're doing a big disservice to these individuals. I understand that these conversations can be hard, but we're all adults in the workplace. We're all grown. We're not children. And we must be able to have those tough conversations if we are truly in service of helping these individuals move forward and getting the opportunities that they truly, truly deserve. And what I've learned is that people will respect and appreciate and trust you more if you only have these conversations. Even if they don't like it initially, they will trust and respect you more, and you'll be able to influence them more. And frankly, if the person is not able to take the feedback, then that also says a lot. That is all for this week, my friends. Join me next week, Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern, where I will talk about part 2, activities, actions that we can all take wherever we are in the organization to impact change and drive accountability so that we can move forward in the area of diversity and inclusion. So if this is an area that you're passionate about and you want to learn more about it, click on the subscribe button below as well as the bell, and you will be notified when I upload my video next Wednesday. You can also follow me on LinkedIn and Instagram at Keisha Winter, as well as my website, yourpowerunleashed.com, to get more frequent updates, insight, and resources. Bye for now, my friends. I see you and I believe in you. And don't forget, you were not meant to shrink down lower, so rise up and own your power. Have a fantastic week.